When I was younger and I saw, my brothers getting their first tattoos, I was just like, oh, that's gonna be me one day. And then, of course, 14, my first tattoo I got in Rosarito. Freaking wings on my back. They're covered now. But I always knew that I wanted to express myself differently. My mom always had kind of a vision of what she wanted me to look like. Just, and I'm not hating on anyone. Everybody has their own style. I just knew that I just wanted mine to be different.
Valerie Watson, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
How was the drive up from San Diego?
It was fun.
It was cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to drive, right?
Yeah. Just to get out of your head and you play loud music and you're just driving.
Right. Valerie, you have such a wonderful kind of personality. You're such a nice person, but I know your life has been rough and tough, and your childhood in particularly, you went through a lot. And you mentioned to me you ran away at 14. And the thing I asked you was, who'd you run away from? And you said yourself. Explain a little bit to our audience, what were you running away from when you were young, growing up?
Well, I feel like, when you're a teenager and most of them are butt heads, to me, it's just nothing would make me happy. And I was just so depressed and nothing would work. So I just knew that I couldn't be at home, even though I did have a home. And it was just also too much drama. It was always my brothers fighting with my mom. And if it wasn't that, it was too much pressure. And I just felt like, I need to get away.
Yeah.
And I had some friends that gave me the idea that had done it before. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it.
So you're by yourself, 14 years old, in TJ, which is literally
Insane.
The Wild West, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing down there? You were just ducking away from everything, huh?
So at first, yeah, it started with just, obviously hanging out, like trying to feel the scene of what comes next. And then from there, I noticed, I can be a bartender. I can do certain things that I see young girls, literally younger than me, which like now it breaks my heart that I'm like, oh, they're making their own money. Like they're driving their own cars and something that I never thought I would be doing at my age, because we grew up extremely poor. I was taking the city bus to school every day, with girls driving Mercedes and BMWs. So I was just like, F it. Like, I'm just gonna do this. And it was definitely something really traumatic in my life. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
I still have like moments that I think about it and I'm like, what was I doing?
Right.
So I was there for a bit until I had some scary moments, like
Right.
things, that definitely girls at my age should not see. And after that, I was like, something has to give. I need to leave. I need to go back home, or I need to obviously get out of Dodge.
Right. So there's a lot of abuse. You were raised really poor and you needed to survive and you did what it took. And
Yeah.
And you mentioned TJ has a lower cost of living, rent was cheap, and you could bartend and make ends meet.
Yeah.
And then did you bounced around a lot of high schools in Dago, right? I
Yeah.
mean, but you eventually got your GED,
Yeah. My diploma.
your diploma.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that eventually my sons knew that, I didn't just get my GED, that I wanted to work harder, and I got my diploma. So I found this school online, and I would go like twice a week, and I paid out of it like with my own money. And I think I got it within like 5 months.
Okay. And your first baby daddy, you guys met down in Dago, and you had
Yeah.
Xavier, and he's now what, 14 years old or
15.
15?
Yeah.
And what's your advice to him? Are you just kind of, I know you're a great mother, that I do know.
Thanks. So my advice to both of them, but especially my teenager, is, I want him to learn from my mistakes. I want him to see the type of road that I went on. And it's not fun.
Right.
It's not the gangster thing to do. It's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
Recently we had a thing that I'm like, hey, you better start memorizing my phone number, because when you go in there, they're going to take everything away. And how are you going to call me?
Right.
Or how are you going to call anybody?
Right.
Which eventually I know he's a minor and they'll get a hold of me. But I'm just trying to let him know,
Prep him for
the thing, the way it works.
Is he getting into trouble right now, or what's he just kicking up some dust, normal teenage shit?
Normal things, which I'm grateful for, because obviously my brothers and I were not the normal things. And so, just, little things that I get paranoid of, I never want it to escalate to a certain point. That, and I have faith, of course. He's a good kid.
Right. And 3 years ago you had Wolf.
Yeah.
The little wolf man. How's he doing? He's 3.
He's good. He has so much personality. I don't know where he gets it from. He loves people. Every time somebody walks by, and I'm kind of an introvert, so I have my moments, even though I'm an Aquarius. And he just wants to say hi to everybody. He's just like, hi. And I'm like, where did you come from, kid? You're adorable.
Yeah, he's an adorable little dude, and you you end up meeting Wes Watson, right? You end up marrying Wes Watson, who has become a celebrity in his own right. He's we at Cinemills like his content. It's positive content. It's a lot of self-help content.
Yeah.
And you guys met and get married 2 years ago, roughly. You'd be coming up on your 3-year anniversary right now. And what attracted you to Wes? Was he just the type of guy that you saw yourself with? You liked his alpha personality, the bad boy image? What was it?
Of course, it was also a very vulnerable time in my life. I think I had told you, my best friend had just OD'd. And it was just pretty much oh my gosh, you're seeing birds. I can't even be coherent when it comes to certain things. And then, of course, with that, the stress of hey, you still have to be a mom. You still have to, you still have responsibilities. Life still keeps going. It doesn't stop. And so with him, he understood the pain, obviously, because I know he's gone through a lot. And so, yeah, it was, of course, it was the alpha. It was, let me help you. Let me take care of you. Let's work on it. And
did you like that he was Mr. Fixit? He was that guy in your life?
Because, since I never had, besides my brothers, and to be honest, they weren't really, they were, I know they wish they were there more, but they weren't. They were busy doing their own thing. So I never had a man in my life. My dad passed away when I was 6 months old. So of course, when he came in, he's like, I'll fix it. I'll help you. I want you to be a better person. I was like, oh, okay. Of course.
Valerie, I heard a rumor, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, that Wes was actually looking at life, right?
Yes.
How did he wiggle out of that and only do 10 or whatever?
So he was facing 30 years. And at the time, the judge that had his case, there was some things going on, but yeah, he was looking at life. It wasn't supposed to be, hey, 10 years and you're out. she actually was, I actually had to look it up because I couldn't believe how crazy the story was. She left a note one night and it was on her office computer, and her husband found it, and it said that she was getting paid extra money to like put, more people away, giving them more time. So he, right off the bat, she like left a suicide note. So right off the bat, the husband calls the cops. We have to find her. I don't know what she's gonna do. So I looked it up because I had to know. I was like, is this real? Like, did this really happen? And so she ends up driving around for an hour in an area that's pretty close to my hood. And she gets pulled over by the cops, and she ends up killing herself. And so all of the cases that were under her got dropped.
You're kidding me.
And Wes's case was literally, okay, time served, 10 years, you're free.
Wow. That is insane. So this judge takes the bullet train because she couldn't deal with the guilt that someone above her said, trump up all the charges, get as much jail time on these fuckers as you can. Do you think that if we were to follow the trail, that would lead to the Bureau of Prisons or
definitely.
someone that owns like private prisons or something?
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned, publicly that there was a lot of abuse in your marriage, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak on that until legally like things calm down. So, but there's definitely a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And you went public recently, Val, and you said that unfortunately you had to file charges against him, and we can't really get into that because there is a case pending. But I was disappointed to see that, because the Wes that the public persona of him was that he's a learned man, he's an evolved man, but I guess anger got the best of him, and unfortunately some abuse occurred, and it's sad, and we're not here to focus on that, but it's certainly something that you have. It seems like once you're out of the kettle, you go right into the pot, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you think that abuse chases you, or do you chase abuse subconsciously?
It's a really good question. Well, yeah, because when you're in a cycle that's, continues and it doesn't stop, and I mean, it's happened literally since I was 14 years old. I guess, you do see the red flags, and you hear them, you see them, and a part of you, like, I'm a very open person. I want to, I've had so many people give me 1, 2, 3, 4 chances. I want to give people chances. I want to believe that, they're gonna change, that this is just a one-time thing. But unfortunately in my life, it hasn't been that way. So when it comes down to that, of course I had an open heart, and I, don't want to believe any of that. I want to keep going. But yeah, I do have a cycle that I definitely, at my age that I know now, I want to break. That I know that I don't want my children to, treat women that way, or to, women in general think that it's okay to live like that, because it's not normal. It's not okay.
Right. What I like about you, Val, is you take personal responsibility as well for your shortcomings and your interactions. And you mentioned you've had a drinking problem.
Oh yeah.
and when you drink, do you get violent, or do you get, how would you describe yourself when you're drinking?
So violent. Probably 80% of the world would say violent.
Okay.
But I do have that percentage of like, if I'm in a comfortable surrounding and I know that I'm happy, and the people that are around me don't, aren't gonna push any buttons, I'm okay. Like, why? It's not just a random thing that occurs, which I'm sure people would love to think so. But when there's resentment, and there's so much going on, and you're drinking, like, obviously, it's a toxic thing.
Sure.
And if whatever the other party's doing, and you just put them together,
It's a bad mix.
it's a bad mix.
Yeah, because I did see a post Wes ran. I actually watched it the other night in preparation for this interview, and he mentioned that his kind of work in progress is his anger, and he mentioned your work in progress is your addiction, right?
Yeah.
And when those two intersect, it's just a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
There's always two sides to every story. And like I said, people don't shit with him. People don't sleep with him. People don't know what it's like to function with him.
Right.
So there was lots of things at that time going on. And to me, any man that says, "Oh, that's not his kid," you're not a man. There's nothing wrong with raising another man's child and loving him unconditionally, as we thought. But, like, so to me, it's just like same old thing.
Right.
Like, a lot of people drink the Kool-Aid, and it's not going to stop. I'm not dumb.
Right. And I commend Wes for stepping in Wolf's life and being a father figure. I thought that was cool. That's something that I admire in somebody else.
Sorry, really quick. I'm like, yeah, we had our moments. I'm not perfect. I've done things, but I've also been in a mental hospital for 78 hours where I called, and he was too busy moving another woman into our home. And I'm over here, stepping in like throw up that other girls were throwing up, and, being drugged by medications that I didn't even know were. And I'm in the hospital, and, I'm your wife. You're trying to, right, like, protect me, guide me the way that you would say. And you're not doing that. You're driving your cars around.
So you didn't feel the love and support?
Absolutely not. I had one person come get me, and I remember I was like, I want chapstick and socks. Like, that's all I want.
It's a simple request, right? So you felt like when shit really hit the fan, Wes wasn't there for you?
Plenty of times.
Yeah. That's disappointing to hear, and again, Wes has his side of the story, and like you said, there's two sides to a story. Hopefully everything will get sorted out. Hopefully Wes will work on himself. Hopefully Valerie will work on herself, and that there'll be some growth opportunity out of this, right?
Yeah.
Out of chaos sometimes comes,
Yeah.
the rose out of the concrete kind of thing. And hopefully that's what's going to be the outcome here. And that little wolf man isn't seeing any drama, because
that's what matters.
That's what matters, is how a 3-year-old processes two adults yelling at each other.
Exactly.
Right?
So I'm like, comments,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
That's what matters.
And if people are that dumb to not acknowledge that, jeez.
Yeah. And you said something powerful earlier. You said, I need to break the cycle. It must happen because you've lived in a cycle of abuse. Wes has gone through so much PTSD shit. It's not fair to the little wolf man that he's got to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I consider myself responsible, because I brought him into his life.
Correct. And that's part of your responsibility. One dude writes, roid rage is real, bro. You don't put on 40, 50 pounds of lean muscle in 2 years without it. Comment there or no?
What a bunch.
We'll leave that one alone. But yeah, Wes is jacked, man, you know, and but you said something to me that he does put in the work. That man is up at 2:45. He's really about that life in that sense, you know.
Yeah. But like you know, he's about that life.
So you felt like just a co-star in his life. You never felt like a partner is what you're saying. Yeah.
It's your fame, the way that people are going to look at you, and that's fine. I'll take the scarlet letter. I'll take the Amber Heard comments.
Right.
I am totally okay with that because I know that I have more balls being called those names than him reading his comments and losing his shit.
Right. And, you know, there's just no excuse for putting hands on a woman. If that woman is that bad, you just got to abort mission and just get out of the deal. But, you know, anyway, the whole thing is all fucked up right now, but you are dealing with it the best way you can. You're being strong, Val, and you're hanging in there. So hats off to you. Stay strong.
It's not my first rodeo.
It's not your first rodeo. You've been through the meat grinder. But a lot of people want to see, you know, this gentleman, Raymond, writes, sad thing is she'll be back with him.
Oh, man. I would have to be like a consistent show of really, and I'm just not, you know, saying myself, like both of us healing, not together, obviously, but healing on our own and real traumas that we haven't focused on because we've been too busy, or he's been too busy trying to build an empire, that you're putting aside some very serious things that are eventually going to damage your fucking life.
Right.
Because if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else.
Right.
So.
Do you consider yourself high maintenance, Val? And I'm not talking money. I'm talking emotionally. Like, did
no.
You, okay.
I'm like, no.
You're like a succulent or a cactus. You could water Val once a week and she'll be cool.
Yeah. I'll literally ask for like the simplest things, like just like laugh. Let's laugh together. Simple things that, you know, I feel that he's still not able to do from just everything that's happened to him.
Right.
And I do hope that one day he's able to do those things.
Yeah.
Because those are the little things that we all remember in relationships and friendships and any of that.
Right. Let's hope you guys can work this out. You know, let's hope that he can do some self-work. You can do some self-work, like some internal work, and figure this thing out, because there's many posts that he has where he praises you. You were the woman of his dreams. You were someone he manifested, and you know, you guys look great together just as a couple. And but your whole feeling is that you never felt part of the team. It was the West show, and you were just not even a co-star. You were just someone that was on the side. And it seems like the only way marriages work is if it's truly done in partnership, right?
Yeah. Yeah, completely. Like you know, if there's things that I share with you and you know that it's something that I like, I would like you to acknowledge it, just as, you know, I would do the same towards somebody else.
Do you think that Wes was doing what a lot of people call an addiction transfer, a transfer of addiction, where he might not have been doing the crank or whatever it was that he was doing, but now he's a workaholic?
Yes.
You think that's what it was?
Yeah. And it's constant and it's exhausting.
Right.
Even though, you know, I'm not doing the complete work like he is, but it's when it comes to a marriage and having children, you have to have a boundary or it's not going to work.
Right. So Wes lacked a little work-life balance is what he was kind of short on. And that's not to take a shot at him. We're all that. We're all work in progress, right?
Yeah, and like I've said, we're all human. No one's perfect. So hopefully, we can figure out in the sense of like, hey, I'm not perfect either. I'm not fucking perfect. Everybody has seen my shit show.
Right.
Because I don't hide it. Of course, yeah, sometimes it's embarrassing, but it's
just
who I've been. It's my growth. It's where I was. It's where I am now. And so, like I say, like, we're all human beings. No one's perfect.
No one's perfect. And you know what? Beyond the fact we're all human beings, we're all mirrors. We're all bounced like we're all learning from each other, right? We all have a Wes Watson in us. We all have a Valerie Watson in us. We all have different elements about us that we're trying to work on. And the Wes Watson thing is, okay, he's an alpha male, he's a workaholic, he's an intense motherfucker, right? However, he also pushed you. You could take some of those gems and use them to push yourself as a woman, being more empowered, more entrepreneurial, grow spiritually, grow through your business. You saw a great work ethic.
Yeah.
But like anything that's not done, there's a saying that, there's that yin yang sign, right? In the center is where monks want to be, right? It's called the sacred neutral.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all striving for, that balance, to be in the sacred neutral, the place where we're not too high and not too low, right?
Yeah.
And I know that deals with bipolarity. It deals with all kinds of different things. But you as a woman and Wes as a man, when you guys come together, it should be a sacred neutrality, right? It should be a place where the feminine and male energy meet. And that's where successful marriages that I've seen, that's where it happens, right?
Yeah. Like I said, like a lot of healing on our own when it comes to just so much resentment that's been built up with, like things that just have happened. And, it's still a little hard for me to forgive certain things. And I'm sure to him it's the same. So if we can put that to the side and we can do, our own healing, and he does his therapy and his, which I'm sure a lot of people think, he doesn't need it. He does. And so do I. So do I.
Nothing's worse, though, when a girl comes back into your life and she still resents you and that boot's on your fucking neck. It's the worst feeling ever.
Yeah. It's true.
Would you be that person or no? Would you be able to let...
I have before.
Yeah.
Definitely. But with just now how intense everything's gotten,
yeah,
we would both have to we have to let go and forgive everything that happened.
Let's talk about some positive things that relationship left behind for you. I mean, did you mentioned Wes gave you some, he encouraged you to be your own entrepreneur, your own businesswoman, and I know you've been working on your art. Tell us a little bit about art as a business and also as a therapy for your mind.
Yeah. So I got diagnosed, and it's something that I don't hide, about like 2 years ago. And I was diagnosed with being bipolar and having a borderline personality disorder. So I started going to like trauma therapy, and from there, he always my therapist was great, and he would always tell me, what's something that you always loved doing, something you have so much energy, because I know I do. I'm constantly like, if I'm not, I'm always like overthinking. So I was like, art has always been something that calls me, even if it's just regular, painting or drawing. So from there, I just started looking into different types of art that I was like, you know what, I want to try something new. Like, I mean, technology and everything's so crazy now. So that's when I started getting into epoxy, like resin. And so now it's like awesome because it's like, oh, I get to, learn how to make my own wooden canvases. And it's like it feels good. Like I'm like, I'm this like young woman and I'm like putting like huge pieces of wood together. And I work with chemicals now and I get to learn the whole idea of that. So it makes me happy. I was just telling a friend that when I'm in my zone, it's like nothing can affect me. Like it's like the only thing I can hear or see. And I've been really blessed. I'm selling pieces, and that's where I see my future going.
Yeah, and you showed us your art. It's really beautiful stuff. It's very unique.
Thanks.
It's very unique in the way you apply crystals and different, different mediums, and then it's epoxied. It's just really cool how that comes out. So you mentioned bipolarity. Do you have high highs and low lows? Explain some of the symptoms, and do you know when you're having a bipolar moment?
Yeah, so it took me a while. So for instance, they told me like I probably had it since I was like 13. So I was on steroids since I was like a little girl for asthma. So probably not the best idea.
No wonder you're so buff. No, I'm just
Ba-dum-bumsh. So they told me it was probably something that I've had, and I always knew there was something different when it came to how aggressive I get or how sad or depressed I get. So I do know when I am having an episode, I get manic, but it's always triggered. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. It's kind of like, I kind of start like I feel like I can't breathe, like panic attacks.
is it almost like like the world's closing in on you? You
Yeah.
feel, yeah, I've had that
And
a
I'm
few
just
times.
like, oh my
It's not
gosh,
fun.
what am I gonna do? But in my highs and lows, it's, like I can have a day where it's like I'm extremely depressed and I'm just like not feeling it. And there's days that I'm like super calm and nothing's really affecting me. So, that's the fight that I know that when they told me that day that I had it, I'm not gonna lie, it's like somebody telling you like, hey, your whole life that you thought you knew is totally not like that. And it was hard. It was hard for me to accept it. But in a way, I always knew. I was like, okay, well, now I know there's something and I can get help for it. Luckily, because I see a lot of people not being able to get help or, get their medications that they actually need.
Sure.
So I'm blessed that I'm able to do that.
And you have been coping with this for, the better half of your life. What are and we've asked we've talked about mental health on the show before. What are some of the coping tools that you implement when you feel that attack coming on?
Oh man, so one of my favorite ones was count from 90 all the way back when you're having a moment, and then from there you're like, oh, I kind of forgot what I was like arguing about.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like one of my favorites. It still is. And then I also have like little mini boards around the house of like, if you, with colors that say, if you're feeling red, color red, just like probably like the worst of like you're about to lose your shit. Like, put something on that just like calms you down. And I have my own little things that I do that help
Like
me.
self-talk. Do you have a lot of self-talk?
I do, and I have a lot of like little books that just have, like I don't like huge books with a bunch of words. So I like the small ones that if you just open one and it's like something simple to get you through the day.
Sure.
Just a tiny little quote from something.
I like that.
This isn't going to last forever. This isn't permanent. And that's one of my favorites. And I try to tell myself constantly, like, no emotion is permanent.
That's powerful. And sometimes we let our feelings hold ourselves hostage, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really run the show, do they? It's our
No.
beliefs that run the show,
Yeah.
right? So if we could change our beliefs, we can have a positive outcome that's not violent or anything wacky, right?
Yeah.
And it's a mind fuck. It's tough. It's very tough. And so I commend you for being honest about not only your mental fight, but helping other people experience that. And it's something it's okay to talk about, and it's getting better that way, I think.
Yeah.
You know. But what are your plans, Val? Now I know your life has been turned upside down, but you're an entrepreneur, and you're a mother, and you're a great mom, and a lot of people might judge you because of the tattoos and be like, "What's with all the face tattoos and what's going on here?" What tell us a little bit about the tattoos for a minute. What's going on with that? Is that a very important part of your expression, your self-expression?
Yeah, definitely. When I was younger and I saw, my brothers getting their first tattoos, I was just like, oh, that's going to be me one day. And then, of course, 14, my first tattoo I got in Rosarito. Freaking wings on my back. They're covered now. But I always knew that I wanted to express myself differently. My mom always had kind of a vision of what she wanted me to look like. Just, and I'm not hating on anyone. Everybody has their own style. I just knew that I just wanted mine to be different. She wanted, the dresses. Like, I don't think you'll ever see me in a dress.
You're more of a tomboy kind of.
Yeah. I was, and she would put me in these dresses and I would literally like scratch and I'd get so mad. So, and then I just started, I knew that I loved art and I wanted to keep close memories to me that I know that have a lot of meaning. Mm-hmm. And like to have them on me forever, like that just sounds like an awesome fucking thing.
Yeah, it is cool. And the piece on your lower lip, that's new, right? I mean,
yeah. So I just got this one and it says saved.
Okay.
So that was just my form of saying, I've lived this life so like long enough to know that nobody's going to save me. I'm going to save myself.
But hasn't that always been the story of your life? Like you've dodged every obstacle they've put in front of you, and you've always had to pick yourself up. No one was really there for you.
Yeah.
And where do you think you draw that power from? I mean,
my mom. My mom did everything by herself. She didn't have family here. She brought, raised 3 kids by herself. I don't even know how she, there's days where I'm like, I have like help. So I'm like, I don't know how she did it. She couldn't have like a sick day or, call in. She had to take care of the kids. So I get a lot of my power from my mom.
Do you see yourself getting now more into social media? Because you've always been kind of quiet, more reserved. You've done some interviews, you've done a few things, you've done a lot of modeling. Do you see yourself getting more active on social media now?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because I know of like where I want to go when it comes to my art, and I'm like willing to, use different platforms. And also I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. Like, why not?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it and make something of this life. And there's probably a 14-year-old version of yourself that's going to watch this. What's your advice to a young woman that's dealing with some mental issues, that really feels alone in this world? Is there some advice you could give that girl?
Oh man, I'm not gonna cry. Just keep pushing, keep going. No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. You have to love yourself enough to keep going, because one day you're going to look behind and you're going to say, oh my gosh, that was my life. How did I even let that get to that? Because you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have happiness, and people love you unconditionally, no matter what they tell you. And that's what I would tell them.
Yeah. And it seems like in this world, a lot of people they feel left behind. They don't feel significance anymore. And you end up seeing people doing mass shootings to feel significant, right?
Yeah.
And you see, the lack of feeling just acknowledged in it. Such a busy world seems to be a big problem right now.
I know, it's heartbreaking.
It really is heartbreaking. But, the good news about you, Val, is that you've become very strong. You're a strong woman, and you're a role model for a lot of women that have gone through some abuse, that have picked the wrong guy, or been through so many different things. And it's just, I think it's great that you're sharing your story, right? I think that's important.
Yeah, I never thought I would. It was, people always make you feel ashamed for it or embarrassed. And I'm like, why? It's my story. No one can take it away from me.
Right, right. And when you were with Wes, he was such a alpha male, high intense guy. Did you always feel like you were just in the shadow of him, or
Definitely.
Like you didn't feel it was a partnership, did you?
No.
Right.
Not at all. And also just, the pressure of, having to build up to, be next to someone like that. I'm like, am I good enough? And that's something that nobody wants to ask themselves when they're, with someone.
Right.
It's like, am I constantly good enough?
Yeah.
And
no, relationships are always difficult. It's just they take a lot of work, and they take a lot of sacrifice. And I know you made the sacrifice, and I know Wes did too. It's always a two-way street. There's always two sides to a story. But what did disappoint me was that there was physical abuse, but that'll be addressed at another time. But right now, the good news is that you are moving forward in your life. You're doing your art, you're doing your modeling, and you're going to emerge, Valerie, in our opinion, as a role model for women. And I don't know if that's something you want to take on, but I think just by default, your story is going to be a role model story.
yeah.
And hopefully help people.
Yeah. No, I would love that.
Yeah.
Like I've said, I have a lyric in a favorite song, and he says, if I can help one person in the world just by hearing this song, that would make my life. And that always stuck with me. I actually have it tattooed on my stomach.
So that's a beautiful thing, right? Contribution, giving back, and you seem to have a heart for it, Val. How can our audience get a hold of you? Where can we find the artwork?
So as of now, my Instagram's like the only thing I have. Like I'm building a website and all that's gonna come later. But as of now, it's my Instagram.
Okay, and what is that?
It's Valerie _Villa, VILLA _.
Okay, so we'll look for that, and I know our audience will support you by buying your art, because it's dope art, and it also has a story behind it, and you're the story. And then hopefully we could have you back up here, Val.
Yeah, I would love it.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you so much for coming through, Val. We really, really enjoyed your company.
No, thank you.